Hi, Mariam. Welcome. Welcome to my house. Please. It's so good to have you here. Hi, this is Kaneka Subberwal. I'm an art consultant and curator, and now a lifestyle consultant because I've started my own brand called Tarakeeb, which is a sustainable home and fashion brand. I came into Bahrain in 2007. That's the time I used to do art shows I started with Bahrain Art Society, Al Bare Art Gallery, then moved on to the Ritz. Finally, I started getting a hang of and a relationship started building with Bahrain because I realized that here is a market which engages as opposed to who is actually interested in the art. So that's when I first set up an art lounge, which was the first in the Gulf. I remember way back in 2009 it opened with the Rifa Palms project. So that was my first step into Bahrain. So when I launched the Art Bar project in 2015, the year one was the art fair only. Year two, we started off with the International Artist Program. That was 16, 17. And then by year 18, we had done Museum of Contemporary Art Singapore. We had done the Artisanal project during the Venice Biennale. We had done the Country Pavilion. We had done the Grand Palais. So now, I set challenges for myself and I'm like, okay, what next? Because you've peaked. The objective was to reach the artists of Bahrain across borders. That we had reached. Now what next? And that's when I looked at the crafts. And in 2019, I bought into Bahrain a very senior designer from India, JJ Valaya. He'd been in the business for 22 years. And I got JJ in to work with the artisans of Bahrain. We created something called the Bahrain Room, which traveled with us to La Biennale Paris. And then came COVID. Now, in COVID, there was me and there was myself. My family was back in India. I was here and I had nothing to do. And I had all this information, knowledge, energy, and pieces. So I called up a friend of mine one day, Reem, and I asked her, I said, I have a question. And she said, okay, tell me. I said, what is the Arabic name of, how do you explain putting things together? So she said, have you Googled it? I said, yeah, I've got 2-3 abbreviations and one of them is Tarakeeb. So she said, yeah, Tarakeeb would be it. And that's how Tarakeeb was born. Like I mentioned, 2019 was a turning point for most of us with COVID. Life took a change. And Tarakeeb was born literally out of bits and pieces of my past 5 years and whatever I had absorbed. I had reached you can call it a pinnacle and a plateau. We reached them at the same time, right? Because when you reach the top of a ladder, and then where are you going to go next? And you don't want to fall. So then you start a new ladder. You start climbing again. Tarakeeb was my climb again. And I realized that our artisans and our I call the artisans the biggest doctors of craft, because the actual craft begins with them. Everything that all of us create has actually been devised from them. We had a craft, we have multiple crafts actually, and I had seen that in a very broad or a very massive scale with, like I told you, furniture and the Bahrain Room, and what you see in front of you, this table is done by Bahraini artisans. So now, but COVID had reformatted everything. It was all about practicality, simplicity. How do you make do with what you have? So I had fabric, I had wool, I knew a weaver, and I said, okay, and we got working. And at the time...
And it's a Bahraini weaver.
And it's a Bahraini weaver who sits at Beni Jamra. And at the time, who actually didn't know me by face or name. He only dealt with one of the girls who used to work for me. She's, mashallah, a mother now, settled in Dubai, Amina. So I told the driver, I said, okay, here is all the wool. Take it to him and ask him to weave it. Now he wove the wool. Now what do I do? Because it was the peak of summer and nothing was going to happen. Nobody was going to wear woolen jackets. So we created an edit of cushions with Dillman seals. I don't have any of them around because that edition sold out. We created the edition. We did the photography, put it in a catalog. We literally sold off 800, 900 pieces to France. I told him, okay, you keep weaving. And we kept creating cushions. Now, for the longest time, we just kept doing cushions and they kept going because I had a unique selling point.
Yes.
The inspiration board was Bahrain. Why was it Bahrain? Because that was a particular weave that I was selling.
Yeah.
It was not that, in fact, like somebody once came up to me and said, oh, you know, so-and-so place in the Gulf is so popular. Why don't you do a brand collaboration with them? And I said, but I don't live there. I don't know anything about it. Even if, with Bahrain, I may not know a lot, but I have friends who have been born, whose generations have lived from here.
Yes.
So I've been picking up. So Tarakeeb technically is literally about combining experiences, knowledge. I pick up from them because who knows their legacy better, definitely not me. Then came up with Nagda. Now I started seeing Nagda, and the more I would go to the centers that do Nagda, I realized, oh my God, this is what we call Mukesh back in India, but the formats are different.
Yes.
What is available in Bahrain is thicker, rounder, more solid, I would say. Whereas in India, you get different varieties. You get the flatter one, you get the small one. So I said, okay, then let's try out fashion. So that's how Nagda came into being. And I used to go to Capital Mall very often, and you know, those women used to really think I'm crazy because I would tell them I want a whole panel done and a back panel done and a front panel, and they were like, no, can't do so much together. Then I started looking into their tools on why they couldn't do so much together. And I said, you know, it'll be another thing. It wasn't my place to now started changing formats, and they wouldn't figure, why am I telling them, you know, that 10 of you can get together and produce so much more. So I didn't want to, you know, ruffle onto a area that wasn't mine. I mean, nobody was telling me that, no, you know, go and teach people what to do. So I decided that, okay, I will get inspirations from what they do. And if they can do it, great. If not, I'll get it done. So that's how the Nagda collection came into being.
Yes.
This is where I launched Tarakeeb for the first time in October 22.
I saw you on both.
You saw me, yes.
Yeah, and then you displayed amazing pieces, and you told me these were all made in Bahrain.
Yes. So I see, that was the thing. Now, and that's another thing. I am very clear about our Made in Bahrain collection. Like what I'm wearing, this is 100% made in Bahrain. This is completely Bahraini because here, this is the Beni Jamra weave again.
Okay.
So this is the wool that we buy, but the wool I have to source from outside. Earlier, my source used to be things to do, but now I need a larger volume.
Yeah.
So I bring it, you get a very good Brazilian wool that comes. A lot of times there's a shop in Manama, they used to have cotton, but then they told me that, madam, the amount you have, they don't get together.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to source that supply, but Brazil gets a good cotton yarn. So this is the Brazilian cotton yarn, but it's all woven here and then stitched here. So like I was coming back to it, if somebody had to ask me, so nothing from here is not from Bahrain, I would be honest and say these tassels are not from here. And I'll tell you why. Because what you get everywhere are acrylic tassels. The acrylic tassel, if I pull it, somebody with my strength, that whole tassel will be in your hand. This I can guarantee you, if you held it from one hand and then I held it from the other, it won't pull. It's a pure cotton tassel. We bring it in from Gujarat. So what I'm saying is that there are few things that if I will not compromise, I will make and that's my problem. That's a plus and a minus. I will not use anything that's available. Yet I want to make a product that is flawless. Is the one foundation that we've built ourselves on. I wear what I sell, and what I do not wear and I cannot get myself to use, I do not sell. I would rather, and this happened very recently. I mean, you probably know her and she's probably related to you in some way. And a client came in and she was buying something for the first time. She asked me if I could do her a headscarf and a slip with an abaya that she bought. I sat on it for 3 weeks. And finally, I called her back. I said, listen, in the silk I can give you an alternate color. But in the color you want, I can't buy the silk because I don't know whether it's silk or not. So what I'm saying is, I don't know whether that's the best policy to have, but that is the policy we work on. Thank you, Mariam. And I think through your channel, thank you to everybody, because like I tell everybody, this is home. I feel a part of Bahrain in every which way, and Bahrain has been my family. So thank you for all the love and respect, and thank you for connecting me to your lovely audience. And I would be sharing the invite with you for the fashion day. It's on the 20th of April. Our show is at 5. It's just that it's an invite only show, so I'll share my invite with you, and anybody who's interested, please feel free to invite them. I personally myself will not be there. I'm going to be watching it from far, but inshallah, if anybody can go, if whoever can go and watch it, we'll be rooting for us.